She had always been careful with her heart. Life had taught her to hold back, to think before trusting someone completely. She had seen many people let down by those they cared for, and she knew how painful it could be. So when she met him, she could not help feeling a mixture of curiosity and fear. He was not the kind of man that everyone trusted easily. There were whispers in the town about him being unpredictable and harsh. People said he could be stubborn and even unkind at times. But there was something in the way he carried himself, the quiet strength in his eyes, that drew her in. She tried to ignore it, but her heart did not listen. She remembered the first time she saw him. He was standing by the river, looking at the water as if he could see things others could not. He did not notice her at first, and that made the moment feel private and special. She had watched him for a few moments, studying the way he moved and how he seemed so lost in thought. She felt a strange sense of connection, as if somehow their lives were meant to intersect. Yet at the same time, the warnings from others echoed in her mind. She tried to push the thought away, telling herself that people often misunderstood others, and that maybe he was not what they said he was. Their first conversation had been awkward. She was nervous and careful with her words. He spoke softly, but with confidence. There was no rush in his speech, no need to impress anyone. He listened more than he talked, and when he did speak, his words felt thoughtful and genuine. She was surprised at how easy it was to talk to him, even though she barely knew him. The more she spoke with him, the more she realized that people often judged him too quickly. She could see kindness in his actions that others failed to notice. Despite her growing interest, she could not ignore the fear. She had heard the stories, seen the expressions of doubt on the faces of her friends and family. They asked questions that made her heart ache, telling her to be careful and not to rush into something she might regret. Their concern was not surprising, and she appreciated it, but it only added to her inner struggle. She wanted to believe in him, wanted to trust that he was different from the rumors. But fear lingered. There were moments when she caught glimpses of who he really was. Once she had seen him help an elderly neighbor carry heavy bags from the market. He had not made a show of it, and he had not expected thanks. She saw the gentle way he treated the neighbor and the patience in his actions. It was the small things that gave her hope. Small actions that proved he was capable of care and thoughtfulness. Their meetings became more frequent. They would walk through the fields, talking about simple things like the weather or the work in the village. Sometimes they would sit by the river in silence, just enjoying each other's presence. She began to feel a sense of calm when she was with him, a feeling that she had not known in a long time. Her fear did not disappear completely, but it softened. She began to think that maybe people were wrong about him, that perhaps he was not the man they made him out to be. Even with her growing affection, she had moments of doubt. She would lie awake at night, thinking about what might happen if she allowed herself to fall completely for him. What if he was different from the kind of man she hoped for? What if he disappointed her in ways she could not imagine? The uncertainty was frightening, but at the same time, there was a part of her that wanted to take a chance. She realized that love often required courage, the kind of courage she had not always known she possessed. One afternoon, as they walked through the market, a group of villagers whispered and pointed. She heard the words that made her stomach tighten. They talked about him in a way that made her question everything. But when she looked at him, she saw no malice, no harshness. He greeted them politely and continued on his way, showing respect and calmness. She realized that people often spoke out of fear or misunderstanding. Their opinions were not always a reflection of who he truly was. She began to notice the small gestures that revealed his character. The way he always remembered her favorite flowers, the way he would offer his coat when the wind blew cold, the way he would pause to make sure she was safe when they crossed the street. These acts were quiet but meaningful. They spoke louder than any words or rumors. She started to see him not just as the man people feared, but as someone who cared deeply and genuinely. Her family continued to express concern. They asked difficult questions and shared stories of people who had been hurt by those they trusted. She listened, but she also felt a growing determination to find out the truth for herself. She realized that living in fear was not a way to experience life fully. She needed to trust her own judgment and see the man for who he was. One evening, As the sun set over the fields, he took her hand in his and spoke quietly. He told her about his past, about the struggles he had faced, and about the lessons he had learned. He spoke honestly and openly, without hiding anything. She felt the weight of his words and the sincerity behind them. It was in that moment that she realized fear could not guide her forever. She needed to see the man in front of her, not the stories she had heard. Days turned into weeks, and their bond grew stronger. They shared laughter and stories, hopes and dreams. She began to feel a sense of security with him, a feeling that was new and comforting. Her fear was still there at times, but it was no longer overpowering. She was learning that trust could be built through understanding and patience. There were still challenges. Not everyone accepted their growing closeness. Some people would stare or make comments that stung. She had to navigate these moments with care, learning to protect her heart while still opening it to someone who had proven himself through small acts of kindness. She realized that her journey was as much about learning to trust herself as it was about trusting him. The turning point came one afternoon when he surprised her with a thoughtful gesture. He had noticed something small that she had mentioned in passing, something that mattered to her. He took the time and effort to make her life a little brighter, without any expectation in return. She was moved by his consideration and realized that actions spoke louder than words or rumors. He was showing her the man he truly was, and it was a man she could trust and respect. Her fear slowly began to transform into hope. She could see a future with him, a life built on honesty and care. She knew that challenges would come, and that trust was something that had to be nurtured every day. But for the first time in a long time, she felt that she had found someone who was willing to stand by her, to understand her fears, and to act with integrity and kindness. As she reflected on her journey, she realized that fear had been a teacher. It had taught her to be cautious, to observe, and to value her own instincts. But it had also taught her that courage was necessary to experience the fullness of life. By facing her fear, she had discovered a man whose actions and character spoke louder than the doubts of others. She was beginning to see the possibility of a life where love and trust could flourish, a life where her fears would be replaced by confidence and understanding. The woman knew that this was only the beginning. There was still much to learn about each other, and the road ahead would have challenges. But she felt ready to take the first steps, guided not by fear, but by the quiet certainty that she had found someone who valued her, cared for her, and would continue to prove through actions that love was worth the risk. She could finally imagine a future where her heart was not weighed down by fear, but lifted by trust and hope. She felt a sense of peace that she had not known before, a calm that came from knowing that sometimes the truth about a person was far different from the rumors, and that with patience and courage, one could discover the beauty hidden. Beneath appearances, the days leading up to the wedding were filled with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She woke each morning feeling a flutter in her chest, a combination of anticipation and fear. Even though she had begun to trust him, the thought of committing fully to a life with him was daunting. She spent hours thinking about what their future might look like, imagining both the happy moments and the challenges that lay ahead. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. She often found herself questioning if she was making the right decision. He, on the other hand, seemed calm and steady. He understood her fears and never pressured her to make a decision quickly. He offered quiet reassurance in small ways, through gentle words or thoughtful gestures. One morning he brought her a simple bouquet of wildflowers he had picked himself. They were not extravagant or expensive, but they carried a message of care and attention. She held the flowers close and felt a warmth in her heart. It was moments like these that reminded her why she had chosen to trust him despite the doubts. The preparations for the wedding were both exciting and stressful. There were tasks to be completed, decisions to be made, and expectations to manage. She found herself caught between wanting everything to be perfect and fearing that something might go wrong. She would often glance at him and see the calm determination in his eyes, and it reassured her. He handled the details with quiet confidence, never making a show of his efforts but always ensuring that things were taken care of. It was another way he showed his character, through actions rather than words. Friends and family continued to voice their opinions. Some tried to convince her that she should reconsider, while others offered support and encouragement. She listened to everyone, weighing their words carefully, but ultimately she knew that the choice was hers alone. The more time she spent with him, the more she realized that her life would be richer with him by her side. The doubts still lingered, but they were no longer overwhelming. She had begun to see beyond the fears and focus on the man in front of her. On the morning of the wedding, she woke early, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She took a deep breath and reminded herself that this was the moment she had been preparing for, a step she had chosen with care. She dressed in a simple gown, elegant but understated, and looked at herself in the mirror. She could see the traces of her anxiety in her eyes, but also the glimmer of hope and anticipation. She knew that the day would bring changes, but she felt ready to embrace them. He arrived at the venue quietly, without fanfare. He did not need to make a grand entrance or impress anyone with words. His presence alone carried a sense of strength and calm that seemed to fill the room. When their eyes met, she felt a wave of reassurance wash over her. His gaze was steady and warm, and it reminded her that she was not alone in this journey. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. And that thought gave her courage. The ceremony began with soft music and gentle words. She held his hand tightly, feeling the warmth and steadiness in his grasp. Each step of the ceremony was a reminder of the commitment they were making, not just to each other, but to the life they hoped to build together. She felt the presence of everyone around them, but her focus remained on him, on the connection they shared. The fears that had once loomed large seemed to shrink in the light of this moment, as the vows were exchanged. She listened carefully to his words. They were simple but heartfelt, reflecting the depth of his feelings and the sincerity of his intentions. She realized that his words were more than promises. They were a reflection of the man he was. The man who had proven himself through countless small acts of care and thoughtfulness. She spoke her own vows with a mixture of nervousness and conviction, expressing her hope for their future and her commitment to trust and support him. After the ceremony, there was a quiet moment when they were alone together. He looked at her with a gentle smile and spoke softly about the journey they were about to begin. She felt her heart swell with emotion, a mixture of relief, love, and anticipation. The doubts that had plagued her seemed to fade, replaced by a sense of possibility and hope. She realized that the man she had feared was not the man she had in front of her now. He was someone who would stand by her, understand her, and continue to show his love through his actions. The reception was filled with laughter and conversation. Friends and family celebrated their union, and she found herself enjoying the moments more than she had expected. She watched him interact with others, seeing once again the kindness and patience that defined him. He was attentive, polite, and considerate, qualities that made her heart swell with gratitude and affection. She began to understand that love was not just about grand gestures or words, but about consistency, care, and understanding over time. Throughout the evening, she noticed the small details that made the day special. The way he held her hand as they walked, the way he anticipated her needs without being asked, the quiet ways he made her feel seen and appreciated. These moments were not dramatic, but they carried immense meaning. She realized that these were the things that would sustain a marriage. The small acts of love and attention that built trust and connection over the years. As the night drew to a close, they found a quiet moment alone. The world around them seemed to fade, leaving just the two of them. She looked at him and saw the man she had come to trust and care for deeply. She felt a sense of peace, a quiet certainty that this was the right step for her. The fears that had once threatened to hold her back were now tempered by the knowledge that he would continue to prove his love through his actions. She realized that the wedding was not just a ceremony, but the beginning of a journey. It was a journey that would require patience, understanding, and continued effort from both of them. She felt ready to embrace it, confident that they could face challenges together and grow stronger as a result. The man she had once feared had shown her the power of quiet strength and genuine care, and she knew that their future together held promise and hope as they left the venue hand in hand. She felt a sense of anticipation for the life they would build together. The fears that had once loomed large were now shadows in the background, reminders of the courage it had taken to take this step. She knew that there would be moments of doubt and challenge, but she also knew that love, trust, and consistent care would guide them forward. She looked at him and smiled, feeling gratitude for the man who had proven through his actions that he was worthy of trust, respect, and love. The day had ended, but their story was only beginning, filled with the quiet promise of a life built together with care and understanding. After the wedding, life settled into a rhythm that felt new and yet comforting. She woke each day with a sense of anticipation, wondering what the next moment would reveal about the man she had chosen to spend her life with. He had always been quiet in his expressions of love, preferring actions to words, and she was learning to read the little gestures that spoke volumes about his character. The early days of marriage were not without their adjustments, but there was a sense of peace in knowing that he valued her feelings and cared deeply for her comfort and happiness. One morning, he presented her with a gift that caught her completely by surprise. It was not something expensive or flashy, but something thoughtful and personal. She received a small handcrafted box that he had made himself. The box held a collection of items that reflected moments they had shared, notes he had written to remember her words and dreams, and small mementos from their walks, conversations, and time spent together. As she opened it, she felt a wave of emotion. Each item was a reminder that he had been paying attention, listening, and cherishing every detail of her life even before they were married. She realized that this gift was more than a gesture. It was a promise to continue noticing, caring, and nurturing their bond every day. She studied his face as she held the box, noticing the quiet pride and humility in his expression. He was not seeking praise or attention. He simply wanted to show her that he understood her, that he valued her presence in his life, and that he was committed to making her feel loved and appreciated. The simple act of thoughtfulness erased lingering doubts that she might have carried, and replaced them with a growing confidence in their partnership. She could see clearly that the man others had warned her about was not who she knew him to be. He was gentle, attentive, and profoundly considerate. The gift sparked conversations between them that deepened their understanding of each other. They spent hours talking about the memories attached to each item in the box, sharing laughter and quiet reflections. He told stories about what each piece meant to him, revealing a side of his personality that few had ever witnessed. She listened with wonder, realizing that she had underestimated the depth of his thoughtfulness and the sincerity of his emotions. Through this simple act, he had communicated more than words could ever capture, and she felt closer to him than ever before in the days that followed. She began to notice more small acts of kindness that reaffirmed her trust in him. He would take care of tasks without being asked, remembering details she had mentioned in passing, offering support in ways that eased her daily life. She saw that his actions were consistent, and that they were motivated by genuine care rather than obligation or desire for recognition. Each act, no matter how small, strengthened her belief that she had made the right choice. She felt a sense of relief and gratitude that went beyond words, a quiet happiness that filled her heart. He also continued to show understanding in moments of vulnerability. When she shared her fears or worries, he listened without judgment, offering gentle reassurance and perspective. He never dismissed her concerns or brushed them aside. Instead, he acknowledged her feelings and helped her see solutions or ways to cope. This patience and attentiveness created a safe space where she could be herself without masks or pretenses. She realized that trust was not built in grand gestures alone, but in these consistent, small expressions of care and respect. Their relationship began to shift in ways that were subtle but profound. She felt more confident in expressing her thoughts and desires, knowing that he would listen and respond with consideration. She noticed that he sought to include her in decisions and respected her opinions, even in matters that others might consider trivial. The partnership they were building was based on equality, understanding, and mutual respect. It was a dynamic that contrasted sharply with the warnings and judgments of those who had feared his character. She saw that he was proving not only to her, but also to the world, that reputation did not always reflect reality. The gift had sparked curiosity and admiration from others as well. Friends and neighbors who had been skeptical began to see the tenderness and integrity he brought to their marriage. They observed how he treated her with thoughtfulness and care, often in ways that were quiet but powerful. Slowly, the narrative about him in the community began to shift. People started to understand that the man who had once been feared could also be deeply compassionate and reliable. She felt a sense of pride in witnessing this transformation, recognizing that love and consistent action had the power to change perceptions and hearts. As the weeks went by, they continued to explore the depth of their connection. They shared routines and rituals, simple moments that built a sense of home and partnership. Whether it was preparing meals together, walking in the fields, or spending quiet evenings in conversation, each shared experience reinforced their bond. She began to see marriage not as a series of obligations, but as an opportunity to grow together, to learn from each other, and to create a life filled with trust and affection. Challenges naturally arose, as they do in any relationship. There were moments of misunderstanding, small disagreements, and moments of doubt that tested their patience and communication. But even in these times, she noticed that he approached conflict with thoughtfulness rather than defensiveness. He listened, considered her perspective, and sought solutions rather than insisting on being right. His willingness to engage in honest and respectful dialogue strengthened her respect and affection for him, and it taught her the value of patience and empathy in a lasting partnership. She also began to reflect on her own growth. The fear she had once felt was gradually giving way to trust and understanding. She realized that opening her heart had required courage, but the reward was a connection that was authentic and deep. She understood that love was not about erasing fear entirely, but about learning to act with trust and hope despite it. Each day with him was a lesson in patience, care, and the quiet power of consistent kindness. One day, as they sat together by the river, he spoke softly about his intentions for the future. He talked about dreams they could share, hopes for a home built on mutual respect, and the life he envisioned with her by his side. She listened with a sense of wonder, appreciating the sincerity in his voice and the thoughtfulness behind his words. It was in these quiet conversations that she felt the depth of his commitment, the kind of commitment that went beyond ceremony or tradition and was rooted in understanding, patience, and love. The gift he had given her after the wedding became a symbol of the life they were building together. It reminded her that love was demonstrated through attention to detail, thoughtfulness, and consistent action. She felt motivated to reciprocate, to show care and consideration in her own ways, creating a cycle of respect and affection that strengthened their partnership. They learned to navigate life together, supporting each other through challenges, celebrating small victories, and appreciating the ordinary moments that formed the foundation of a lasting connection. Through this process, she began to see the man she had once feared in a new light. He was not defined by rumors or the judgments of others. He was defined by his actions, his respect for her, and his consistent efforts to nurture their relationship. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to know him fully, to witness the depth of his character, and to participate in a partnership built on understanding and care. The gift had been more than a material object. It had been a revelation, a clear statement of his intentions and his heart as the days turned into weeks. She felt a growing sense of security and happiness. She knew that life would continue to present challenges, but she also knew that they would face them together. The trust she had built in him was not blind, but earned through observation, experience, and shared moments. She had learned that love required both vulnerability and courage, and that it could flourish when nurtured with attention and respect. She reflected on her journey from fear to trust. Recognizing the transformation in herself and in her perception of him, the man she had married was not the one the world had warned her about. He was someone who demonstrated love through his actions, respected her, and who was committed to building a life together based on trust and understanding. She felt fortunate to have discovered this truth, knowing that it had required both courage and openness to arrive at this place of connection. In the quiet moments of the evening, she would look at him and smile, feeling a sense of contentment and hope. The gift he had given was a constant reminder of his thoughtfulness and the depth of his care. It symbolized the beginning of a life together, one filled with understanding, patience, and love. She knew that the journey was ongoing, but she felt ready to embrace it, confident that they could continue to grow together and navigate whatever challenges came their way. Her heart, once shadowed by fear, was now filled with the quiet certainty that she had found someone who would continue to prove, through actions and attention, that love and trust were possible and enduring. As time passed, the bond between them grew stronger, shaped by countless small moments of care and understanding. She began to see clearly that trust was built not by grand declarations, but through daily actions that reflected thoughtfulness and reliability. He continued to show her kindness and patience, often in ways that went unnoticed by anyone else, but that spoke directly to her heart. She found herself paying attention to these moments, recognizing the depth of his commitment and the sincerity of his love. One afternoon, he helped her with tasks around their home that she had struggled to manage alone. He did not make a show of his efforts or expect recognition. He simply acted out of a desire to make life easier for her. She watched him quietly, noticing the care with which he moved, the attentiveness he showed to details that mattered to her. It was in these ordinary acts that she felt the extraordinary nature of his character. She began to understand that his love was not performative or conditional. It was consistent, genuine, and patient. She also noticed how he treated other people, how he interacted with neighbors, friends, and even strangers. He displayed a quiet respect and fairness that contrasted sharply with the warnings she had heard before their marriage. She saw that he was not harsh or unpredictable, but careful and considerate. These observations reinforced her belief that he was the man she had chosen, someone whose actions reflected integrity and kindness. She felt a sense of relief and pride in knowing that her choice was based on understanding rather than fear. Their conversations deepened as well. He listened attentively to her thoughts, concerns, and dreams, offering support and insight without judgment. She felt valued and heard, a feeling that strengthened her emotional connection to him. In turn, she began to express herself more openly, sharing hopes and fears she had never voiced to anyone before. This reciprocity created a safe space in their relationship, a foundation built on trust, respect, and understanding. She realized that this was the kind of partnership she had always hoped for, one where both people could grow and support each other. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed by gratitude for his presence in her life. One day, he surprised her with a simple gesture. He prepared a small meal, remembering her favorite flavors and preferences. She was moved by the thoughtfulness behind the act, realizing that he noticed and remembered the small details that mattered to her. This consistency in caring behavior reassured her and deepened her trust. She began to understand that love was not just a feeling, but a series of intentional actions that reflected attention and devotion. As they navigated daily life together, they encountered small challenges and moments of tension. Disagreements arose as they do in any partnership, but he approached each situation with patience and empathy. He sought to understand her perspective and worked toward solutions that honored both their needs. She found that these experiences strengthened their bond rather than weakening it. They learned to communicate openly, to respect each other's feelings, and to navigate differences with care. This process taught her that trust and love were built through collaboration and mutual respect. She also noticed how he supported her personal growth. He encouraged her to pursue interests and activities that brought her joy, and he celebrated her achievements without jealousy or competition. His support was unwavering, and it made her feel empowered to explore her own potential. She realized that a healthy relationship was not about controlling or limiting each other, but about encouraging and uplifting one another. She felt fortunate to have found a partner who embraced this philosophy. Through his actions every day, their relationship began to influence the way others saw him. Friends and neighbors who had once doubted his character began to observe the care and respect he showed her. Slowly, the negative perceptions started to shift as people witnessed his consistent kindness and integrity. She felt a quiet satisfaction in seeing the truth about his character revealed through his actions. The contrast between rumor and reality was stark, and it reinforced her understanding that judgments based on appearances or hearsay were often misleading. She also reflected on her own journey. The fear she had carried before their marriage had gradually transformed into confidence and trust. She recognized that opening her heart required courage and vulnerability. But it also brought rewards that she could never have anticipated. The lessons she learned about patience, observation, and understanding strengthened her ability to navigate life and relationships with clarity and resilience. She felt a sense of personal growth that paralleled the growth of their bond. One day, surprised her again with a small act that showed he remembered her worries from earlier in the week. He had anticipated a situation that might have caused her stress and had taken steps to make it easier. She was deeply touched by his thoughtfulness, realizing that he was continually attentive to her needs and feelings. Each of these moments reinforced the trust she had in him and reminded her of the depth of his care. She understood that love was not static, but dynamic, expressed through continuous, mindful actions that nurtured their connection. The ordinary routines of life became moments of shared joy and understanding. They cooked together, tended to their home, and enjoyed quiet walks in the fields. Each day, they learned more about each other, discovering preferences, quirks, and habits that made their connection unique. She appreciated the balance of comfort and surprise in their daily interactions, recognizing that these experiences were the foundation of a lasting and meaningful relationship. She felt secure in the knowledge that he was fully present and committed, and that their life together would continue to grow richer with each passing day. She also began to notice the impact of support on her own confidence and independence. By providing consistent care and understanding, he allowed her to trust herself and her decisions more fully. She felt empowered to pursue her goals, to take initiative in various aspects of life, and to express her thoughts and emotions openly. She realized that a strong partnership nurtured the growth of both individuals, and she felt grateful to be part of a relationship that honored this principle. There were moments of quiet reflection when she considered the journey from fear to trust. She thought about how she had once doubted him based on the opinions of others and the reputation that had preceded him. Now she saw clearly that the reality of his character was far different from the rumors. He had proven, through consistent actions, that he was dependable, kind, and thoughtful. She felt a deep sense of relief and satisfaction, knowing that her trust was not misplaced and that her fears had been overcome by observation and experience in time. She also observed how he treated others with the same respect and consideration he showed her. He interacted with neighbors, friends, and strangers with a quiet integrity that reflected his true nature. She recognized that his kindness was not selective or performative, but genuine and consistent. This reinforced her understanding that love and trust were demonstrated not only in private, but also in how one conducted oneself in the world. She felt proud to be associated with someone who embodied such principles through both words and deeds. Through these shared experiences, she came to understand that the foundation of a strong and lasting relationship was built on consistent care, mutual respect, and thoughtful attention to each other's needs. She saw that love was expressed through daily actions, small gestures, and attentive listening. She felt gratitude for the lessons she had learned and for the opportunity to grow, alongside a partner who continually demonstrated integrity, patience, and empathy. The months following the wedding strengthened her conviction that she had made the right choice. The man she had once feared was revealing himself to be a source of stability, support, and love. She observed his behavior with care, noting how he consistently prioritized their partnership and sought to nurture it through thoughtful actions. Each day, she felt more confident in their shared future, recognizing that their bond was built on trust, understanding, and genuine affection. She also reflected on the ways she had grown since marrying him. The experience of trusting someone who had once seemed intimidating had taught her valuable lessons about courage, patience, and discernment. She realized that fear had been a necessary part of her journey, guiding her to observe and understand before committing fully. Now, she could appreciate the transformation that had occurred within herself and in her perception of him. She felt a sense of fulfillment and hope, knowing that their partnership was founded on principles that would sustain them through life's challenges and quiet moments together. They shared dreams and plans for the future. They discussed hopes for their home, ways to support each other's goals, and ideas for nurturing their relationship over the years. These conversations deepened their connection and reinforced their commitment to one another. She felt a growing sense of excitement and anticipation for the life they were building, confident that it would be guided by mutual respect, understanding, and care. She knew that the man she had once feared was proving himself daily to be a partner worthy of her trust, admiration, and love as the months passed. Their life together settled into a rhythm that was both comforting and fulfilling. She reflected often on the journey that had brought them to this point, from the early days of fear and doubt to the steady trust and deep affection that now defined their relationship. She realized that every small gesture, every quiet act of care had contributed to the strong foundation they were building. She understood now that love was not a fleeting emotion, but a commitment demonstrated through consistent thoughtfulness and attention. He continued to surprise her with small acts that reinforced her trust and admiration. One morning he prepared a simple breakfast, remembering the way she liked her tea and the kind of bread she preferred. It was not a grand gesture, but it carried a message of attentiveness and care. She watched him work, feeling a sense of gratitude and warmth. These moments reminded her that love was shown in the details, the ways one notices and responds to the needs and preferences of a partner. She felt fortunate to have found someone who understood the power of such small but meaningful actions. Their home became a place of shared memories and quiet joy. They would spend evenings talking about the day, sharing thoughts, and planning for the future. She noticed how he always made time to listen, to understand her perspective, and to offer support when needed. She felt a sense of partnership that was rare and precious. It was a relationship where each person felt valued and respected, where both could grow individually while strengthening the bond they shared. She began to see how rare it was to find a connection built on such a balanced and thoughtful foundation. He also demonstrated his care in moments of challenge. When she faced stress or uncertainty, he was patient and understanding. He offered comfort without overstepping, guidance without judgment. She realized that trust was strengthened not only by joyful moments but also by the way they navigated difficulties together. His presence provided reassurance, a steady anchor in times of uncertainty. She felt a growing sense of confidence that whatever challenges they faced, they could overcome them together with respect, patience, and cooperation. Over time, she also noticed the impact of their relationship on others. Friends and neighbors who had once doubted his character began to see the consistency of his care and respect. They observed how he treated her, how he supported her, and how he acted with integrity in everyday situations. Slowly, the perception of him in the community began to change. She felt a quiet satisfaction in witnessing this shift, understanding that his true character was revealed through consistent actions rather than hearsay or assumptions. It reinforced her belief that she had chosen well, and that love could indeed transform the way people saw the world. She reflected on her own growth as well. The fear that had once weighed heavily on her heart had been replaced by trust, understanding, and a sense of security. She recognized that opening herself to love required courage, patience, and discernment. She had learned to observe carefully, to value actions over words, and to appreciate the depth of character revealed through consistent kindness. She felt a sense of pride in herself for having taken the risk to trust, and gratitude for the man who had proven worthy of that trust every day. One afternoon, he surprised her with a small token of remembrance. It was a note tucked into a book she had been reading, expressing his appreciation for her presence in his life and his excitement for the future they were building together. She read it slowly, feeling her heart swell with emotion. The note was simple, yet it carried profound meaning. It reminded her that love was an ongoing effort, a continuous expression of care, attention, and thoughtfulness. Each day provided an opportunity to nurture their relationship, to demonstrate their commitment to one another, and to build memories that would last a lifetime. Their conversations became deeper and more meaningful as time went on. They discussed their hopes, fears, and dreams, exploring the possibilities of the life they were creating together. She felt a sense of partnership that was empowering and reassuring. He encouraged her to pursue her passions and supported her decisions, demonstrating a respect and understanding that made her feel secure and valued. She recognized that true love was not about control or dominance, but about mutual respect, support, and encouragement. Life together was not without its challenges. There were disagreements, misunderstandings, and moments of stress that tested their patience and communication. Yet each challenge became an opportunity to grow closer, to learn more about one another, and to strengthen the foundation of trust and respect. She appreciated the way he approached difficulties with calmness, empathy, and a desire to find solutions that honored both of their perspectives. She realized that the ability to navigate challenges together was a key element of a lasting and meaningful relationship. She also observed how he treated others with the same integrity and kindness he showed her. His interactions with neighbors, friends, and strangers were guided by fairness and respect. She understood that his character was consistent, not dependent on circumstance or audience. This realization deepened her respect and affection for him. She felt proud to be his partner, knowing that he embodied principles of integrity, patience, and compassion in all areas of life. She recognized that this consistency was a rare and valuable quality in a partner. The small rituals they developed became cherished parts of their daily life. Morning walks, shared meals, quiet evenings by the fire, and moments of laughter and conversation created a sense of continuity and intimacy. She felt a deep sense of comfort in these routines, knowing that they reflected a partnership built on attention, care, and mutual respect. She understood that the ordinary moments often carried the most meaning, forming the foundation of a life filled with trust and love. She also reflected on the journey they had taken together. From the early days of fear and doubt to the steady trust and affection they now shared, she recognized how far they had come. Each step had required patience, observation, and courage. She had learned that love was not something that happened automatically, but something that was nurtured through consistent effort, thoughtful attention, and mutual respect. She felt a sense of fulfillment and gratitude for the opportunity to share her life with someone who demonstrated the principles of love so consistently. He continued to find ways to show his care and attention. Simple acts like preparing a favorite meal, remembering a passing comment, or offering a quiet word of encouragement carried profound meaning. She noticed these gestures and felt the depth of his understanding and devotion. They served as reminders that love was expressed through everyday actions, that the consistency of thoughtfulness and care mattered more than grand declarations or dramatic gestures. She felt a growing appreciation for the subtleties of his character and the sincerity of his intentions. Their connection extended beyond words and actions to a shared understanding and trust. They could communicate without speaking, recognize each other's needs, and offer support intuitively. This level of connection brought a sense of peace and security that she had not known before. She realized that true partnership involved more than affection or attraction. It required attentiveness, empathy, and a commitment to supporting one another through all aspects of life. As the seasons changed, they continued to build a life marked by trust, respect, and shared experiences. They celebrated achievements, comforted each other in moments of difficulty, and took joy in simple pleasures. She felt a growing sense of gratitude for the man who had once been feared by others, but had proven himself through consistent actions and integrity. She understood that his character and devotion were rare, and she cherished the depth of their connection. She also recognized the impact of their relationship on her own perspective. The experience of overcoming fear and embracing trust had taught her valuable lessons about courage, discernment, and the power of consistent kindness. She felt a sense of empowerment, knowing that she had learned to trust her instincts and to value actions over appearances. This understanding enriched her life and strengthened her capacity to engage in meaningful relationships, both with her partner and with others. In quiet moments together, they often reflected on their journey. They spoke about their hopes for the future, their dreams for a home built on love and respect, and the life they wanted to create together. She felt inspired by his vision and reassured by his commitment. The conversations were not always about grand plans, but about the ways they could continue to nurture their bond, support each other's growth, and maintain the trust and affection that had brought them together. She understood that the strength of their relationship lay in these ongoing efforts and thoughtful exchanges. She felt a profound sense of fulfillment and hope as she looked toward the future. The man she had once feared had consistently demonstrated care, thoughtfulness, and integrity. He had proven through countless actions that he was a partner worthy of trust, respect, and love. She realized that the journey from fear to confidence had not only strengthened their bond, but it also enriched her understanding of love and partnership. She felt ready to embrace the life they were building together, confident that their relationship would continue to grow in trust, affection, and mutual support.